Hello, JBU. Welcome. Hey, my name is Brad Gatlin. I'm the Associate Dean for the Soderquist College of Business. And yes, applaud, yes. Yes, that's why I do this job. You know, once a year I get somewhat well-meaning applause. So thank you. Oh, stop. That's a table in the back, and they shouldn't even, I don't even want to look at them right now. Anyway, thank you for being here. I'm excited. This is one of my favorite events we do every year. This is the 2023 version of Working for the Common Good. This event is co-sponsored by the Soderquist College of Business and the Center for Faith and Flourishing. So thank you to our friends at the Center for Faith and Flourishing for helping make this possible every year. This is the 7th year of Working for the Common Good. We started in 2016 with the goal of sparking conversations on campus and off about how business can be used to honor God, serve others, and impact the world. So those are all phrases from either the JBU or the College of Business mission statement. We think that business is a great means to do those things. We have hosted a few entrepreneurs. We've hosted employees from some of the world's largest companies. We even hosted a missionary who decided to pivot to business to better meet the needs of the people of Haiti. So tonight, we have another entrepreneur, and I'm very excited that our speaker is Marcus Bullock. I introduced him earlier, and it was not good. It was not a good introduction, and he asked me to do it again. So here we go, all right? This is a very poor introduction of Marcus. You ready? Marcus is a guy. He is from Washington, D.C. He has consulted at the White House on issues related to criminal justice. I know, that was better, right? He has a business. He has a mom. And he and his mom won an award. They won the Prison Fellowship Charles Colson Advocate of Hope Award a couple of years back. And he's a guy with a truly inspirational story of redemption. And to quote my friend, Dr. Eva Fast, he's a delight to be around. So please help me welcome, I'm going to let him introduce himself more. So please help me welcome Marcus Bullock to the stage.
What's up? Oh, am I on? Can you guys hear me? All right, how's everybody doing? There it is. What's up, y'all? How's everybody doing this evening? All right, stop. Let's stop. We got to start all over. I need way more energy. All right, let me help give some instruction. I'm on a college campus. You guys are good with instruction. Let me give some instruction so we can understand what levels we need to participate in, as this is a participatory talk. All right. So there are levels to engagement in these kinds of talks. Let's talk about the levels. I like to think that there are at least 4. How many levels? 4. All right, there you go. You guys are great listeners. All right. So now, when someone is sharing an idea or sharing time with you this way, and someone introduces them, it's very common for us to do exactly what we did. We go, oh, this is nice and cute. That's cool. That's great. I love you. Thank you so much. Whatever. That was horrible. Now, this is the level 1 clap. It goes, I'm sitting at my table. It was pretty cool. Yeah, all right, that's level 1 clap. Now, the level 2 clap is like, all right, you know what? You said something that really resonates with me, and I'm grateful for it. And I want to show the person in the front of the room that I'm appreciative. The hands go from below the table to above the table, and then you go like one of these. This is showing you're excited. All right, that's level 2. What level was that? 2. Level 2. All right. Level 3 is when you get really excited, like, okay, yeah. And then you either get loud or you stand up, and it's like, yeah, okay. Now, some of you guys have been in rooms where you've actually experienced a level 4. Now, level 4 is like when you are going crazy. It goes from, yeah, to like, yeah, okay, yeah. That's level 4. All right, what level was the screaming? 4. Level 4. All right. Now, to be able to make sure that we're all on the same page, let's try it out. All right, you guys remember the levels? We remember levels. All right, let's try level 1. Oh, that's so cute. Level 2. Okay. Level 3. Yeah. We about to have fun tonight. Give me a level 4. Level 4. Yes. 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 That's what I'm talking about. That's the energy you have whenever you see somebody introduce me from now on. When they introducing me, I need a level 4 from now on. We all got, no, I'm joking. Thank you guys so much for inviting me to your campus this evening. I'm super excited to be able to be here. Brad, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I do have a mom, did start a company. I have consulted at the White House, and there are a few other things I'm going to talk about this evening. Now, to help us to ensure that we're adequately prepared for appropriate and responsible Twitter and IG posts, I put my candle up there on the screen. So that means if I see you looking down at your phone, I'm just going to naturally assume that you just took a picture and you're tweeting about something that resonated with you. I'm going to naturally assume that you're posting on Instagram and you're probably tagging me in it. So this is the part of the talk where I'm going to give you the permission to give me your divided attention. If you're dividing attention between me and your device, it's only because you're either tweeting or posting about this talk on Instagram. And not just to be able to give me another vanity metric, to be able to say that someone enjoys the talk that they are a part of, but it allows me to be able to hear what resonates with you, what's important to our community, and so that I'm always being thoughtful about the messaging that I wanted to deliver to amazing spaces like this. So I wanted to be able to make sure I put the handle up there on the screen. Now, in order to be able to make sure that I don't get completely derailed and have way too much fun on this stage, just to be up here rambling and doing my thing, I'm going to put a couple of bullet points on the screen to help guide me and you inside this conversation. A few things I'm going to talk about inside of this talk. One of the first things we're going to talk about is the power of resilience and how I leverage my own resilience in order to be able to, one, not only grow my company, but to two, also want to create impact in the world. One of the other things I'm going to talk about in this talk is the power behind creating moments of empathy and storytelling. Now, I talked a little bit about this earlier in one of the classrooms that I visited, but I think that it's so important that we are intentional about creating brands for ourselves, and we leverage storytelling to be able to do that. One of the third things we want to talk about is the importance of celebrating and connecting to the person beside you. I think it's super important to make sure that we remember each of the moments that we live through in our lives that are celebratory, because too many times we live so far in the future and we allow for our vision of what we want to accomplish in the future or the milestones that we create for ourselves to sometimes derail how we feel about ourselves and not celebrate the moments that empower the rest of our lives. I think it's important to pause sometimes and to celebrate. But I also think it's important to be able to connect the celebrations to the missions of what it is that we're working on and the level of intentionality we should even have around that as well. It's going to make a little bit of sense as I get deeper into the talk, but in order to be able to guide it, instead of me giving a bunch of solutions around the company structure, how to build a business, building innovations, strategies, tactical things in order to be able to deliver on growing and sustainable companies, I'm going to storytell because that's in bullet point 2. This picture that's on the screen right here, this picture is of me, my mom, my sister, and a cute little baby is my niece, Demia. Now, Demia is like 22, 23 now, and so it drives me crazy when I go back and go look at this photo because I feel like an old man, and it's not just the gray hairs, it's literally this photo that's making me feel old when I look at my niece. But this photo was taken about 3 weeks before I turned 15 years old. Now, this photo was also taken around Christmas time, and it was a couple of weeks before I made one of the worst decisions of my life. Now, this was an interesting season for me because I was a sophomore in high school and I played varsity basketball, just got bumped up to varsity basketball. I was in the Benjamin Banneker Math Club. I wanted to be able to go play Division I ball. I had an amazing family structure that wanted to deposit in me. And I also had an awesome community of people around me to be able to help support along the journey when I was this age. And then it was an interesting turn of events that allowed me to go down a path that was not unfamiliar to people who lived in my neighborhood, but for my family, it was probably not only the worst decision that I could have made, but the one that would cripple us for the next several years. After this photo was taken, a few weeks later, my best friend and I, during my sophomore year and his junior year of high school, we committed a carjacking. He and I pulled out a gun on a man that was sleeping in his car. We tapped on the window of the car, asked the man to get out of his car. We jumped in the driver's and passenger side, pulled off, leaving that man standing in the parking lot, dazed and confused, wondering what had just happened to him while we drove off in his car. It's a horrible decision. In fact, that decision landed my best friend and I in handcuffs the very next day as we had just committed a carjacking. Now, we got away with the crime. We drove off and sped down 95. We made it all the way home that Saturday night. That Sunday morning, my job was to simply get up and go to Sunday school and meet my mother at church and forget about the carjacking I just committed the night before. But my brilliant 15-year-old brain says, hey, Marcus, you found the guy's wallet from the carjacking last night. You should go shopping with his credit cards. I know, I felt the laughter. There was some, I was wild. It was interesting because this was a horrible decision that began this steamroll of what would happen over the next several weeks. We would go shopping with the man's credit cards, and we would drive the car back to the mall, go shop with the man's credit cards, and I'm talking about we shopping. We like walking through the mall with a stolen credit card, and we swiping at every store we go in. I'm talking about we like Door to Explore, swiping, no swiping, right? We get it in. We're walking around the mall with these bags. We finally make it to one store. It was a Macy's. When we get to the Macy's and we're starting to swipe the card there, the attendant, she looks at the card, and she's like, well, clearly your last name isn't Wojciechowski. So I think we're going to call this one in. So I'm like, okay, you can call it in. In my mind, my 15-year-old brain, she's calling it in because she believes that there is enough money on the credit card, and I've been swiping this man's credit card all morning, so I know it's money on the credit card. So go on and call it in, ma'am. My best friend and I, we're standing at the register while she calls in, and security is now coming. We see the security guard coming toward us, walking toward us. I'm looking at my friend is looking at me, and he's like, yo, maybe we should run. Maybe we should get out of here. I'm like, no, we good. Don't worry about it. We're about to get this jacket. It's a nice jacket. The security guard gets even closer, and when he gets even closer, we're like, well, I don't know, maybe he is here for us. Maybe we probably should exit stage left. We walk out of the mall, and that's when the security guard yells out, hey, you kids, stop. We drop the bags, and we start running. We gone. Now, we're going now. This Marcus here, I'm in my sophomore year of high school. I'm playing varsity basketball. The amount of laps that we run every day in practice says this little chubby security guard that's chasing me is not going to catch me and my friend while we're running from him from the mall. In fact, as we're getting further and further away from him and we're running from Pentagon City Mall, we don't realize that the Pentagon City Mall that we're running from is across the highway and then going to the parking lot where we ended up at the Pentagon building itself. This means that we're running from the police and we're running to the police. We get to the Pentagon building, and the federal workers, they come outside like, what's going over here? By this time, we hear sirens that are chasing us. Over time, now I hear, I look up, I see the bird in the sky chasing us, and while we're running, I'm looking at our boy like, yeah, we should probably get our stories right now, because it looks like we're not going to make this one. They arrest us, slam us on the ground, take us to the juvenile hall, and if I'm being honest, when it happened, I'm so terrified of the thing that's going to happen next. And it's not the thing that happens next. It's not the handcuffs. It's not the jail cell. It's not the officers. It's not the people in there. It's none of these things. The thing that I'm most fearful of is the fact that someone's going to make me call my mother and tell them that I just got arrested. I didn't care about a judge or a prosecutor or a correctional officer or police. I grew up in Washington, D.C., when Washington, D.C. was the murder capital of the world. We saw police activity all of the time. People went to jail all of the time. This wasn't a new thing for us. Seeing this happening, but knowing that someone was going to call my mom was the scariest thing in the world. In fact, when I would call my mom, I couldn't believe that I called my mom, and the first thing that she would be concerned. She would be so concerned, and she would talk to me about what's happening and what to expect, and she would ask me questions, and I had no answers for them. And in fact, I'm like, Mom, you figure it out what you need to do to get me out of here, because I got to get out of this situation, because I got to go back to school, because if I miss too many days in second period where they take attendance, it's going to drop my GPA significantly, and I won't be able to play on the basketball team. And so my mom was like, I think that you should probably be a little bit more concerned about what's going on here and not your basketball team. But my brain couldn't really wrap my head around what was going on, because just a few weeks, this was the family photo that dominated my life. This was the family dynamic that dominated my life. This was the family that meant everything to me. And so I couldn't conceive of anything outside of being around them, especially during the Christmas holiday. I would go on to go to court for the carjacking that I committed, and I would learn different vocabulary words. And when I was in our science class, I had vocabulary words like anthropomorphism. And now my new vocabulary words are arraignment, pre-sentencing report, sentencing guidelines, sentencing corrections, prosecutor, prosecutorial conduct, defense attorney. These were all vocabulary words I had no idea of not only what they meant, but how they would impact so much of my life and what was going on in that moment. In fact, while I was going to court, I couldn't prepare myself for moving from the juvenile facility to the county jail simply because my judge decided that the crime that I committed was an adult crime. They would certify me as an adult, as 15 years old, and it would move me directly to the jail and put me in a main housing unit with everyone else that was there and committed offensive crimes. I would be the youngest person in the housing unit, but I really didn't care about that because, remember, I came from a community where I saw a bunch of men who committed crimes, and I wasn't fearful of them. I wanted to go home and go back to second period to make sure that I can keep my spot on my varsity basketball team. In fact, I would go back and forth to court, and I would hear all of these things that the lawyers would talk about, and in my brain, all I was thinking about was how fast I can get back to school and back to my girlfriend and back to my friends, and maybe I will be able to open up Christmas gifts. But the judge would say, no, I'm going to hand this sentence down to you, Marcus. In fact, I'm going to hand this sentence down to you today, and I'm going to sentence you to 23 years to life for stealing that man's car. The judge would then look at me and say, well, I'm going to give you these 23 years, but I'm going to suspend 15 of those years from the sentence, but I'm going to leave you with 8 years to serve, which means you're going to have to serve 8 years, but you're going to have to serve all of these 8 years in adult maximum security prisons because I want you to learn a lesson. When the judge sentenced me, I remember I was sharing with someone earlier that when he sentenced me, my brain, again, just couldn't really register what was happening. I was so immature that I paused court at the sentencing, and I'm like, Your Honor, I hear what you're saying. I know the sentence. I know I got the 8 years. But I just got bumped up as a shooting guard on the varsity team, and we get to play Sherwood in the state championship. So I'm going to go play in the state championship with my basketball team, and then we'll come back, and we'll assess this whole court case and deal with it then. The judge looks at me, and he's like, well, young man, clearly you don't understand the magnitude of what's happening here today and the legal ramifications of the decision that you made that day in that parking lot. So I'm going to remand you back to the sheriff, put you back in the holding cell, and your lawyer can explain to you what's going to happen next while I call the next case. I'm like, all right, cool, no worries. I walk back to the holding cell. I'm in there. I'm like, all right, cool. They'll figure it out. My mom, she'll call somebody. They'll have me out by 8 o'clock tonight. Mom will call the prosecutor. She'll talk to him. She need to call a judge. I don't know. Call 411. I don't care who you call. But somebody needs to call them and help them understand that Tamika, my girlfriend, just bought me a Kenneth Cole t-shirt, and I need to wear that back to school after Christmas break. So you guys got to get me out of here. And it was interesting because the Christmas break would come, and then New Year's would come, and Valentine's Day would come, and Easter would come, and the last day of school would come, and the first day of school would come. And I would spend all of those days growing up in the cells that I knew that my mom would figure out a way to get me released from. In fact, when they first finally transferred me from the jail to a prison that was about 4 hours away and housed all of the notoriously violent people that were there, I would take the next family photo with my mom. Now, don't let the waterfall in the background of that photo fool you. This was in one of the hardest prisons that I had to live in, and it became the hardest time of my life. I had to grapple with all of what I saw every day and trying to figure out how to make it through this next season that would include a bunch of violence, people who I didn't want to hang around, conversations that I had no idea what they were talking about, and now living in a space that no matter what I or my mom did, I couldn't escape from. I would grow up inside of some of these prison cells, and it became extremely challenging. Now, even though the days would be long, and I would try to figure out how to navigate through these interesting waters that I'm forced to have to swim through with some of the people there that, if I'm being honest, would become the closest folks to me over time, but at the entrance of me going to prison was a very scary moment for myself and my mom. I would grow up in these cells, and I'm talking about I would spend years inside of these cells, and it would be my second year of me living in delirium, of me knowing I'm going to go home every single weekend because my mom is going to figure out a way to get me out. It wouldn't be until year 2 when I would be walking around a rec yard with my man Danny B, and that conversation that I would have with him would change everything. Now, Danny B, he's a man that is in his mid-50s, and I'm like 17 at this time, right? I've been locked up for 2 years. Now, at 2 years, I've been locked up for 2 years. I'm talking about, I'm a vet now. Like, I know everything there is to know about prison. I'm in there. I've been locked up for 2 years. This is what I do. I do's this. I do's this. Not does, and I know this. I do this, right? This is what I do. And I'm with Danny B, and I'm walking around a prison rec yard with him, and I'm like, yo, this is what I do. I do prison. Like, yo, I've been here for 2 years. I mean, I know this thing in and out. Danny B, how long have you been here? And Danny B, casually, without breaking a stride inside of the conversation, with me knowing that Danny B is 55 years old. Mind you, prison is one of the only places you can be like 17 and one of your closest friends is like 55. He and I, we walking around the rec yard. He tells me, without breaking stride, he was there for 31 years. Now, when Danny B tells me he's been in prison for 31 years, literally while I'm walking around that prison rec yard in that circle of that track that goes around all the grass and the pull-up bars and the weight piles and all of the men that are arguing about the most menial things, I can't stop my stride even though my heart drops to my toes. My palms are getting sweaty. I'm getting super nervous. My legs feel like noodles, and all I want to do is collapse in that moment because my 17-year-old brain finally wakes up and realizes that if they would keep Danny B in here for 31 years, they would definitely keep me in here for all 8 of mine. All of the delirium that I had when I walked inside of the prison went away. In fact, while I got sentenced back a couple of years ago to that time, that day, walking around the rec yard with Danny B was the real day I got sentenced. That's when it really finally hit me that I was gonna have to serve all this time. And it was interesting because when I got to that point when I realized I had to serve all this time, that's when I became extremely upset. Now I'm angry. I went from being the fun, playful kid on a housing unit that was like, hit somebody in the shoulder and run and be like, bet you can't catch me. I'm legit playing tag on a housing unit inside of a prison. I went from the jovial, fun kid to now being the most angry person on the rec yard. My cell partner was Spider, and Spider had life plus 43. And because he had life plus 43, Spider would continuously complain about the last thing that he would see before he died was cinder block walls, because he would die in prison, and the last thing that I probably would see would be the same. Not only did I want to figure out a way to get out of the situation, but I couldn't believe that the same God that I had been praying to for years up until this moment was the same God that wouldn't answer the final prayer of me coming home from prison. I would pray continuously and asking the Lord, please, I need you to let me go. I need you to free me from this. I can't do all of this time. There's no way I can do 8 years. I want to go home and be with my friends. I want to be able to go home and enjoy Christmas morning. I want to be able to go home and be with my mom. And my mom is sitting on the edge of her bed and she's crying her eyes out. My mom would tell me how she would prepare dinners like a big pot of chili, set the table for 2 people, and sit down before she had to realize, like, oh snap, my only son that would normally be here sitting here eating dinner with me is in prison, and there's nothing I can do to help him. I knew I was hurting and bringing so much pain to my family, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and then when the doors didn't swing open, I got even more angry. Now I'm angry at God. I'm angry at God. I'm angry at myself. I'm angry at my mom. I'm angry at the attorney. I'm angry at the prosecutor, the judge, the warden, the COs, my cell partner, everybody in the rec yard. Now I'm ready to fight and lash out on everyone. I'm over it now. I don't even want to have hope anymore. I'm ready to live and die by the emotion that I'm feeling right now, because I know that this horrible decision I made when I was a 15-year-old kid changed everything, and now my life is over and I can't do anything about it. And so now, if this is going to be what it is going to be, let's make sure that everyone in this rec yard feels the same pain that I feel. Anybody ever heard that term, hurt people? Hurt people? I was that guy who knew that I was going to also die in prison just like my boy Spider. And in fact, when I first got to the cell, the very first thing that Spider would tell me in the middle of August is, Marcus, before you go outside, I know it's 100 degrees outside and we in deep Southern Virginia where you can see the heat waves swimming through the air, Marcus, I still need you to make sure that you go put on your jacket before you go outside. And when you put on your jacket, I need you to cut the inside lining of your jacket, and I need you to slide magazines around the inside lining of your jacket, because you're from D.C., and D.C. beefing with Richmond right now. And if you go outside without that jacket on, then somebody probably going to want to catch you in that breezeway with their shank, and they're going to hit you right in your side. And when they try to stab you up, you want something to block the knife from getting inside of your guts. So make sure you put the magazines around your coat. 17 years old, and this is my new life. And it was hurtful to know that I had to live and potentially die by this new code of prison honor and ethic. I would look out of my cell window and I would see the orderlies wheeling the body bags down the rec yard, and I knew that I was going to be one of them. In fact, I told my mother, I said, look, Mom, I tell you what, stop writing me, Mom. I don't want to write you anymore. I know you were there supportive along this journey. I know I've been calling you. I know you've been coming to visit me. I know you love me, Mom, and I know you're hurting alongside me, but this is now something that I have to do alone. I want you to start grieving for me now. I need you to start grieving for me now, because they charge you $500 for the body when you get murdered in prison. And then for me to have a proper burial, I need you to be in the right mindset to know that you can bury me when you have to pay for my body when they ship it back to you. And while my mom couldn't understand this conversation that was happening, and she's like, what are you talking about? I need you to stop talking like that. I'm like, Mom, you don't understand. My life is different. And in fact, I don't want you to have to go through this any longer. I don't want you to have to drive the 4 hours just to sit with me in a visiting room for 1 hour, then to drive 4 hours back home. I don't want you to have to get patted down with someone running their hands all along your underwear because they're nervous about you bringing contraband back into the prison. I don't want you to have to be the person that the correctional office speak negatively to because you're the mother of a convicted carjacker. I don't want you to have to go through this anymore, Mom. Leave me alone. I'm not going to call you anymore. I'm not going to write you anymore. I need you to let me go. Start grieving for me now. That way, when you get the call and you say you have to pay for my body, you'll just be able to go ahead and send the $500. You'll have the burial. You'll have already understood what the dynamic was, and you can move on with your life. This is the last call I'm going to make to you, Mom. We won't talk again. I love you so much. I'm so sorry that I did this to you. I know this is painful, but I don't want to talk any longer because this is hurting me as much as hurting you. I hang up. Literally that very next weekend, they called me for a visit. They called me for a visit, and now I couldn't believe I had no idea who was going to be coming to visit me because I just told my mom not to come and visit me, and no one else comes to visit me like that unless they ride with my mom. And so when I walk into the visiting room and I see my mom sitting at this daggone table, I'm looking at her and I'm like, Mom, did we not have this conversation? I know we did because I was there when we had it. I know I told you don't come in here and visit me any longer. Stop doing this, Mom. I don't want to keep putting you through this. Stop it. My mom, she looks at me while she's sitting across the table, and she looks at me with a perplexed look. And she now starts to go off on me. Boy, have you lost your ever-loving mind? Don't you ever call me with this nonsense like this again. I'm your mother, and I'm going to love you no matter what you do. You can't out-criminalize my love for you, boy. I'm going to be here with you. I'm going to be there with you forever, and from now until the time you come home. And even though you have 6 years until you come home from this prison sentence, I need you to know that there's life on the other side of this prison sentence, Marcus. There's life waiting for you on the other side of this gate. I need you to know that there's something that's on the other side, and you have to have hope. And I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about hope? Mom, when you go out of those double doors and you get in your car and you roll your window down and you roll out and you listen to the music and the wind is blowing through your hair and you're singing along and looking at the trees while you're driving, I'm going to have to go through that double door. And you see that CO standing right there, that correctional officer standing beside that door, Mom? The very first thing they're going to tell me to do is strip butt naked and squat and cough. You know why they're going to do that? Because they think that you might have slipped me some drugs. This is the life I live. Our lives are completely different. And I need you to get that through your head. You need to stop and let me go now. And now she wants to be combative. Boy, if you say it one more time, I will slap you upside your head. I'll mess around and be in here with you. If you ever talk to me like this again, you are my son, my only son. I'm going to love you until you die or I die. That's the only way you get rid of me. In fact, Marcus, I'm going to make a promise to you today. I'm going to make a promise to either write you a letter or send you a picture every day for the next 6 years of this prison sentence until you come home, because I want you to see that there's life on the other side of this. I want you to see that there's something waiting for you, and you need to know that there's a world that's outside of you. And, there's no internet in prison, right? There's no Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or easy emailing or texting or any of the tools that we use to communicate every day. And so no one gets any information about the outside from prison because it's too hard to write a letter, get an envelope, purchase postage, Google an address, address it, put it in the mail, and have USPS send it off to you. And so when my mom makes this promise to me, I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, I'm like, so check this out. So you think that these Polaroids that you about to send me are about to change anything? You think that these pictures going to change something, Mom? And she's like, boy, you can't stop me. There's nothing you can do to stop me. I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. And she walks out of the visiting room. I walk out of the visiting room, I go back to my housing unit, and a couple of days later, as you can guess, you know what happens at mail call. The first wave of letters starts coming through for my mom. My mom starts writing me letters, and I'm talking about she writes the most interesting letters. My mom is writing letters about absolutely nothing. She's writing long letters and sending me these photos of the most interesting things. I tell people all the time, my mom was Instagram before there was Instagram. She's taking pictures of food. She's taking pictures of buildings. She's taking pictures of stuff, and she's sending me these long letters. My mom would send me a picture with a slice of pizza, and she's like, one day you're going to enjoy a nice slice of pizza when you come home with black olives and mushrooms. I don't know who likes black olives on their pizza anyway, but apparently it's good to you. She would write me a long 4-page letter about with a picture attached of a couch that she took at a department store in a mall. One day you're going to sit on a nice comfy couch. You're going to sleep on a pillow top mattress when you come home. And she would write me these interesting letters. And the interesting thing about this part of the journey is that now, because there's no other person that's really sending this kind of communications out of these facilities, my mom legit is becoming the Instagram of the prisons. Now everybody's living vicariously through my mother's letters and photos. And now at mail call, people looking at me like, hey, Smoke, you get mail? What your mom say? Did your sister finish the GED? Whatever happened with the whole situation with the funnel cake and your niece? And I'm like, you all up in my mail. You all up in my pictures. My mother would send me pictures like my niece at like amusement park eating funnel cake, which is interesting, right? Because here's the thing. Pictures of funnel cake in a housing unit can spark an interesting argument in a prison. I mean, you got people talking about, yeah, you gotta put cherries on a funnel cake with a powdered sugar. You got a whole nother, man, this dude got 80 years. Nah, you gotta put strawberries on a funnel cake. You don't know about funnel cake. Then you got some random person, nah, have you ever tried funnel cake with apricot on it? I'm like, boy, you've been locked up for 100 years. When the last time you had apricot? You don't know what apricot tastes like. Talking about some daggone apricot. But my mom was sending this content in, and now people are living through my mother's letters and photos. And my mom, she talks about the first time she realized that people was like now seeing the pictures, because now they walking in the visiting room, and they speaking to her like they know her. They're like, hey, Miss Bullock. She's like, I don't know you. How you? I don't know nobody in this prison. How do you know me? Like, Miss Bullock, did you get your washing machine and dryer fixed? How do you know about my washing machine and dryer, Marcus? I'm like, Mom, you sent me the picture, the other dude, he used to work for Maytag, never got to more Kimmore's better. Just go with it. She's like, okay, I'm working on it. It's a lint trap issue we want to get fixed. And so now, all of my friends, they're living through this. We're having this experience. I'm growing up inside these cells, and I'm not talking about, again, a year or two, right? Like, I spent my 16th birthday in prison, my 17th birthday in prison, my 18th birthday, my 19th birthday, my 20th birthday, my 21st birthday, my 22nd birthday, my 23rd birthday, all growing up in some of the Virginia's worst prisons, and I couldn't believe that my mom was there the entire step of the way. My mom loved on me in a way that I couldn't be able to explain, and she is one of the reasons why I feel so blessed to be able to make it out of that experience alive. My mom is my superhero, and she even told me when I first came home, Marcus, I want you to be able to come home comfortably and try to figure out a way to trudge on your new reentry path, because I think that there's something about all of this work that you've been doing while you were in prison and reading all of these books. I know you're going to be successful. Come home, live here. You can stay here as long as you want. You don't have to pay any bills. We want to love on you hard. You can do all of the amazing things you want to do in your life. What is your first step? I look at my mom, I'm like, thank you so much. The very first step is for me to go out and at least go get a job. Now, there's 70 million people living in the United States right now with a felony conviction. And I would be one of them that would have to go out on his job hunt. And in my job search, I would run across a job application question that would change everything. Now, this was an interesting season because while my mom was there to be able to provide a ton of empathy during this part of the journey, I couldn't believe all of the people who had erected roadblocks that will help try to prevent me from reaching the success path that my mom and I had charted for myself while I said no sales. My mom would come and visit me often. She would sit with me in the visiting room. And again, she would provide the empathy. I told the classroom earlier, there's a difference between sympathy when you're feeling for someone, and empathy when you're feeling with someone. My mom was there to feel with me, and she was there to help me challenge the norms as I went out to go apply for jobs. And I did have to answer that magical question that ended up on every job application, seemingly glowing, waiting for me to hit that checkbox on the question, have you ever been convicted of a felony? I would go on and fill out 41 job applications, getting declined for each one of them until I landed on my 42nd job application that would ask me the same question, but they would ask the question with a comma, and it would change everything. This time, the 42nd job application would ask, have you been convicted of a felony, comma, within the last 7 years? Now, I just served an 8-year prison sentence and did it all inside of the prison. So I could check the box successfully. No, I have not been convicted of a felony within the last 7 years. Wait a minute, do you guys hire people with felony convictions here? Oh my goodness, what do they do? What? Oh my gosh. Not me. I have not been convicted of a felony within the last 7 years. Please let me have this job. It was a minimum wage paying job working at a paint store where I would be there to mix paint for customers that wanted to be able to paint their kitchens. And while they would say yes, I was just so thrilled that I had an opportunity to live my life with purpose. I could get up every day and I can go trudge my way along to work, and I could be the most excited employee at the paint store. I'm talking about, I'm the happiest person in the paint. You ain't never met somebody that sells paint as happy as me. I'm talking about, I'm so excited to actually have a job and have somewhere to go every day. I mean, good morning. How you guys doing this morning? What do you need over there? Are you painting midnight blue? Really? Are you painting your kitchen? Tell me more. Do you cook in your kitchen? What's your favorite dish? Fettuccine Alfredo. I love. Now, do you use mozzarella or Parmesan for your noodles? How do you do? Meanwhile, my team members in the paint store, they in the back like, bruh, sell the paint, bruh. Just sell the paint, bruh. Like, you ain't got to have a timid conversation with every customer, bruh. Like, you doing the absolute most. You're doing too much. Sell the paint, bruh. Sell the paint. And I'm just so thrilled. I mean, I shared with someone early, like, I hadn't even spoken to someone of the opposite sex for almost a decade. You know how amazing it felt to be able to have a Miss Johnson come in here and ask me how I was doing? She's like, how you doing, Marcus? I'm doing amazing, Miss Johnson. Thank you so much for asking me. I think Miss Johnson want me, y'all. Miss Johnson ain't want me. She just wanted to say good morning. It was interesting because I will go on, and while the customers were so excited to be able to work with me, now they're asking me, like, Marcus, how much do you charge to paint kitchens? You're like really thrilled about selling paint. Do you paint kitchens? I'm like, no, Miss Johnson. I'm about to sell you this midnight blue so you can paint your own kitchen. The painters will come into the paint store, and it was an interesting time because now we're up on the 2005, 2006, 2007 era where people are talking about this new pending recession that's coming, this new housing bubble that's going to cause a bunch of crises moments inside of our city. People are going to be laying off on jobs. The housing market was going to tank. Folks were losing employment. And I couldn't understand what they were talking about because the painters will come in depressed. And I'm like, why are you so nervous about losing work? You know how many Miss Johnsons come into our paint store and ask me how much they charge to paint? Like, it's a lot of work out here, bruh. Like, you shouldn't have a hard time finding work. Matter of fact, this is what I want you to do. Do me a favor, lock my number in your phone, and matter of fact, program my number as the name with money bag emojis. If I call you, it's about a bag. I'm about to go holler at these Miss Johnsons and figure out a way to become the conduit between the painters of the world and the Miss Johnsons that wanted their kitchens painted, and I would formulate prospective painting contractors. It was interesting because now I'm brokering projects where I would tell the Miss Johnson, I'll paint your kitchen for $250 because that's the market price. Is this acceptable to you? And Ms. Johnson would say yes. I would go to the painter. Look, I need you to paint the kitchen for me. I need you to paint it for me for $200. Now, I know it's $50 below market. I'm going to take 50. You take the 100. Everybody wins here. Program my name as money bags. If I call you, it's about a bag. That means you're going midnight. Work for me in the midnight hours while you're working your daytime. Now you're going to be able to make a couple $100 every day. Everyone works out. It works out for everyone. Everyone's excited. Oh my gosh. Turns the paint store upside down. Now it's to the point that customers are coming to the paint store, and while my team members are like, hey, I can help you over here, the painter's like, nah, I'm okay. I'll wait for Marcus. I'm good. And now I have a long line of painters that wanted to talk to me because they knew if they took the order from me, if I took their order for their daytime job, they may leave with the nighttime job messing around with me on a gigging opportunity. The Miss Johnsons of the world now, they're coming to the paint store, and then my team members are like, hey, I can help you over here. And Miss Johnsons are like, nah, I'll wait for Marcus because I'm about to get my living room painted for the low. I'm super excited to talk to Marcus and Marcus only. It's interesting because this store was a Sherwin-Williams paint store. Shout out to Sherwin-Williams for giving me an opportunity. It was a Sherwin-Williams paint store, and now my sales are skyrocketing like crazy to the point that one of the VPs of sales would have to come down and visit the store from Cleveland, and they wanted to meet this person, Marcus Bullock, because like, we don't even know why you selling them this much paint, but apparently, brother, you are selling more paint than anyone in the entire country. Like, how are you selling them this much paint? I'm like, oh, yeah. I don't want to secretly tell them that everybody wants to stand in my line because I'm over here hustling. So they're like, oh, yeah, I'm just like really good at selling paint. They're like, well, you know what? We're going to promote you into a sales rep position. I came home making $11 an hour, and now they promoted me to a job that's now paying me $85,000 a year. Couldn't believe it. Oh, you won't give me an Amex card? You won't give me a company card? I had a little Trio phone. I'm dating myself. Some of y'all don't know what a Trio is. It was a little phone with a stylus on it. Don't worry about it. You can Google it later. Anyway, they give me these things. I'm like, oh, I'm about to go crush them, y'all. We about to get this money. Yo, I couldn't believe that my life was turning this way. And now I'm out in the field, and I'm able to not only help the painters that are looking for more work, but now I'm able to successfully continue to grow this painting company until it got to the point where I could finally quit. Now, I will quit working in that paint store, and I will land on a project that would change my entire life. It will be a project that I would win an award to paint BWI International Airport. That contract would change everything for me. It would allow for me to be able to finally call my mom and tell her that she can retire from working at the federal government, and I can take care of her mortgage and car notes and all that kind of stuff for a bit. I could tell my sister she could move out of a horrible neighborhood, and she didn't have to worry about seeing her children outside of play where there was gunfire and gunplay almost every other weekend. I was able to now live inside of this amazingly beautiful condo overlooking the city, and now I'm living my best life. I'm talking about living my best life, kind of best life. I'm living my best life, right? I'm traveling the world. I couldn't believe that I had these experiences, and my friends, the same ones who I would grow up in those prisons, they would commonly ask me like, well, Marcus, dude, do you not remember when your mother used to send you these pictures? Bruh, you out there, Joe, living. You where? You in the Bahamas doing what? You in Spain? How you get there? What are you doing? You about to get married, bruh. There's no way somebody locks you down. You ain't sending us no pictures of none of this? Bruh, you had kids now. You ain't sending us pictures of the children at all. Bro, Marcus, you are really failing at friendship right now. I just want to let you know, you went home and promised that you will write us letters and send pictures because you know the importance of this. The only reason you had any level of success is because your mom looked out for you while you were here. Bro, why are you not sending me pictures? And I'm telling them, I'm like, yo, if you was to follow me on Instagram, you'll see my whole life. I'm so sorry. I don't even know how to be able to sit down and write a letter or address an envelope. Printing pictures from my phone is like an impossible. I don't even know how. I still don't know how to do that. Like, bro, I'm so sorry. But I tell you what, I promise, when I get back from vacation, I'm going to send you some pictures. When I get back from this, I'm going to send you pictures. When I do this, I'm going to send you pictures. Monday turns into Tuesday. Tuesday turns into 3 weeks. 3 weeks turns into 6 months. And I never sent my friends photos, and I felt horrible because I knew that this was a massive problem inside of these sales, and the only way I was able to have any level of success is what my mother did for me. How would I not have the understanding of reciprocity and giving it back to my friends who are still living in some of those same dungeons today? My life is now filled with RFPs because I run this new painting business, and ITBs and RFQs and architectural plans, and trying to figure out how to sell the sexiest Brazilian cherry granite countertops that came out of the side of Brazil, and blah, 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 blah. This is my new life, and I didn't have the bandwidth to sit down and write letters, but I knew that it was a massive problem that I needed to be able to solve. So, one day, I entered the office, and while looking for a solution to hurry up and send my friends pictures from my phone, and not finding one, we built FlickShop. FlickShop is the tool that allows our users the ability to take a picture, add some text, press send, and for 99 cents, we print that picture and text on a real tangible postcard, and we ship it for you directly to any person in any cell anywhere in the country. Our users are the mothers that wanted to connect with their sons, the fathers who wanted to connect with their incarcerated daughters, the brothers and the sisters and the cousins and the friends who wanted to be able to send moments of their lives with love the same way that my mom did for me. And it's interesting because along the journey while we were building this app, I would never believe that while I was building this construction company and this app in tandem, that we will go on to now connect over 170,000 families around the world with our technology. It allows for people inside of some of the darkest cells in the country to be able to experience a level of love, adoration, and care within a few clicks. And it's something I'm extremely proud of. And we've gone on to continue to not only build FlickShop, and now even the FlickShop School of Business, where we teach other returning citizens out that are coming out of prison how to enter enter the tech and entrepreneurship spaces just like I did and seek financial freedom and the freedom to be authentically themselves the same way that I'm blessed to be able to share with you today. In fact, we go on to understand that no matter how hard I work, no matter where I go, no matter how many hours I put in, there still are not enough Marcuses that can help to build those relationships for the people that are coming out of these prisons. And so now I go out across the world and I speak like I am doing today to begin to erase stigma for all of the women and the men that are coming home from prison like I did, knowing that we can still be demonstrably valuable members of our neighborhoods. And it didn't matter if I had a felony conviction. It didn't matter if I did this thing. It didn't matter if I can figure out a way to be able to help erase the stigma and build the relationships across the globe, then I can now be the catalytic support for so many women and men that need to be able to simply have either simply access or social capital. And now realizing that no matter how hard I work, even in this season of my life, I cannot outwork relationships. And now I'm intentional about creating and crafting the relationships that will not only allow our businesses to be able to scale and build a profitable company that can help create generational wealth for me and my family, creating an incredible impact inside of the world, but also can begin to, again, erase the stigma that comes along with living with the felony conviction, because I started this entire talk by saying that there's 70 million other people that are living in this country just like me, and some of them are living in your and my neighborhood. How we show up for them is going to be the thing that I ask myself every day. And I want to try to figure out a way to continue to build a strong community around just that. In fact, I placed the QR code on the screen today because one of the things that I want to do that's so important to me as I continue to help try to facilitate and build this kind of community is build a project that we call Flick Shop Angels. Our Flick Shop Angels are our community members that band together alongside of us and help support the invisible victims of incarceration, the children with incarcerated parents. You see, the children with incarcerated parents, these are the people that had nothing to do with the decision that their parents made, but they're some of my friends who live in some of these dark spaces, and they'll never be able to see their children simply because they can't walk up to auntie or uncle and ask them for a credit card to spend 99 cents to send them a picture. And so our Flick Shop Angels, they purchase Flick Shop credits from us that we give to children with incarcerated parents, so they can send mom and dad as many funny face selfies as they want completely for free. This is one of the ways that we're leveraging tech and the data that we're collecting in order to be able to help build stronger communities that will contribute to reduce recidivism inside of some of the other places that have been marginalized for years and years prior. You see, again, I'm not the only one that suffered from incarceration and growing up inside of a neighborhood that was stricken with violence and people being overly policed and incarcerated. But I am one of the products that want to be able to bring a service line to our community that can continue to make us stronger, band together, heal, and make us all safer as one. I'm celebrating this moment that I have right now today. Because like I shared with someone in the class earlier today, and just a few years ago, I lived in cell C12, and never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be able to fly around the country, stand in front of amazing students and faculty in Arkansas, and be able to have this kind of conversation that's going to clearly snowball into the impact that we all want to see out of the companies that are governed like ours. Thank you guys so much for inviting me to your campus. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm kidding. Marcus, thank you so much. I'm going to take the first question since I'm here, and I've got the microphone.
let's do it.
So we'll have a Q&A time. Dr. Ladner, we hired him to wander with the microphone. So,
I'm on stage.
Ryan, I think Dr. Vitlasil has a question too, not to put her on the spot, but I want to start. You talked about building family connection through Flick Shop Angels and Flick Shop generally to reduce recidivism, but you're also doing good work around like reentry program and second chance hiring. Can you talk about that a little bit and how Flick Shop, how you can leverage what you have with Flick Shop to help people return and find jobs like you shared your struggle with?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that question. One of the things that I'm most excited about are the tentacles of Flick Shop. Flick Shop is the platform that families use in order to be able to connect with their loved ones. Flick Shop Angels is the tool that some of you all have already become angels for, and we give away Flick Shop credits to our children with incarcerated parents. Flick Shop School of Business is the third tentacle where we train people in the tech and entrepreneurship spaces and want to open up pathways to reentry success after prison, and we want to do that there. One of the things that we're excited about rolling out for a lot of our second chance hiring partners is our enterprise platform that allows us to be able to synthesize a lot of the data that we're collecting along the journey and connect people in meaningful ways back to incarcerated populations that are really targeted at the roles where they're trying to fill for their talent pools. An example of that is one of our largest customers, Slack, who use our product to be able to connect with people specifically inside of prisons in San Quentin in California. Some of these people were enrolled inside of coding programs that taught software engineering development inside of the facility. And while it was a beta program, the Slack team wanted to figure out ways to be able to introduce career pathways to some of these men who they knew not only were so smart and brilliant enough to be able to learn how to write code with pencil and paper because they couldn't have internet access, that they could code and overly perform inside of their offices. They leveraged our platform to introduce those opportunities to some of those men. And 3 men came out of the very first cohort coming to go work at Slack, making $125,000 a year in their quality assurance department, straight out of prison, and able to contribute to their family in a very meaningful way. This is how we reduce recidivism in the country. We leverage our tech and our data in order to be able to provide meaningful pathways for people with their families, with employment, with government agencies, and to be able to support them so that they don't go back.
Dr. B said she was going to ask a question. No, she said that was her question. So,
I'm sorry, Dr. Vitlasil. Other questions for Marcus?
About Flick Shop. Now, are they going to block your pictures in the post office department in the prison, where the person won't get it?
So the question, if you guys didn't hear, the question was, there's a product, there's a company, Shutterfly. Most of us have heard of the company Shutterfly, and that is one of the approved vendors inside of a lot of the prisons around the country. But to answer your question, the question was, are Flick Shop postcards acceptable inside of these facilities? So yeah, we're also one of those approved vendors. For the first few years of launching Flick Shop, I spent a ton of time flying around the country, going to go meet with department officials and prison administration, trying to figure out ways to be able to allow for our tech to be approved inside of their facilities. To date now, we're accepted in all 50 states, and we're shipping Flick Shops into over 3,700 jails, state and federal prisons, juvenile detention centers, and ICE detention centers around the country. Absolutely. Did I do a good job with answering your question? Okay.
Yeah, they don't have to make a copy, because that's what they do with pictures. Just make a copy of it, print it out, and then they won't get it to the loved one in prison.
So the follow-up question was, do they make photocopies of the photos? Because this is a new mail policy regulation that is sweeping around the country as a result of them wanting to combat the smuggling of contraband inside of the prison facilities. One of there are 2 major drugs that that prison officials say that are being smuggled inside of prisons, and they're using the USPS to be able to smuggle those drugs. One of them is called Suboxone, and the other one is fentanyl. and they're concerned that folks are liquefying the drugs because they're odorless, and they're putting them inside of envelopes and then shipping it to the facilities, allowing folks to be able to get high. So one of the ways that they work to try to figure out ways how to combat that is to roll out mail policies that will force the prison operators to photocopy all of the mail and to give them to the residents that are there. I know that wasn't all your question, but I wanted to give everyone else the context because you knew that, and you knew all of that, but I wanted to give context. Now, the answer to that is I spent a ton of time trying to figure out ways to combat just that. And on our website, on the list of approved facilities, we highlight each one of the facilities that have different mail regulations or policies. Now, if facilities do photocopy the mail, I mean, it's nothing we can do to be able to combat that except for try to figure out ways to build relationships with the facilities to overcome that and have them understand the importance of having full color images like you and I share when we scrolling up our screens and double tapping our way to love. The interesting feedback that we get along the journey while we're up against that barrier is that the company is being ran by someone that has a felony conviction, and now prison officials get even more nervous about me being on the side of wanting to smuggle drugs inside of the facility. So there's a bit of nuanced relationship building that has to happen there. The one thing that we're very careful about, though, while we're thinking about building those kinds of relationships, is that we don't want to become one of the companies that have partnered or collaborated with the facilities that have become more predatory for the families themselves, creating a more adversarial approach to communicating there. And that's what happened with the telecom industry, where they began to charge these abhorrent rates for family members to talk to their loved ones, where it cost me $18 to talk to my mom for 15 minutes when I was in prison. And for the majority of people who are incarcerated, they come from communities where an $18 phone call is just that's not possible. I mean, I got to think about feeding the children or accepting a prison phone call. This is the easy one. I'm going to feed the children. I won't talk to my loved one. And so we knew that if we dug a little too deep with those kinds of collaborations, then we would be pigeonholed in a way that we just didn't want to with the facilities. And so we're being thoughtful about the impact that we create in the community first, building relationships there, and then how do we overcome some of the issues like the mail policy regulations that you're referencing now. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Really enjoyed hearing your story, and you talked about how hard it was for you to get back into the workforce, and perhaps how much easier it would have been had those companies used an option that would have allowed you to check the no box. So, not
or just remove the box.
Yeah, or remove it. But assume that a company is a little bit, not wanting to allow a felon who's just been convicted to work for them, but maybe is interested in letting someone who's served out their sentence. So what do you think is a good time frame? So they've been convicted, some time has passed, and they get back in. How long do you think is long enough?
The day they got released.
The day you got released.
The day you got released. The reality of it is that making a decision based off of a hiring decision off of the person I was a decade ago just doesn't make smart sense for the hiring manager. Like, this doesn't even make intellectual sense, right? Nowhere else would anyone in any other environment would someone ever make a decision based off of who the person was over a decade ago, right? Like, it's the equivalent of saying that the 24-year-old that goes to apply for a job today is evaluated on who they were as a 13 or 14-year-old kid, no matter what it is that they were doing, right? And what do we try to help folks understand is that, one, unless the role requires a level of security around it that may be compromising to someone with a very specific offense, i.e. if there's a banking opportunity to be a teller at Bank of America, I kind of sort of understand the apprehension that a hiring manager may have to hire someone who used to rob banks, right? So I get that one, right? But that's a very small population of people for Bank of America. And in fact, what I don't want Bank of America to do is completely restrict all hiring opportunities for people that are coming out of these prisons, because that same person that also used to rob banks, while they may not be the best person to work as a teller, initially, while they're trying to figure out how to create those redemptive moments to prove to the community that they are a valuable member of the city, of the community that can contribute, maybe they can work inside of, on one of the other teams. Maybe they can be a data engineer in one of the Bank of America HQs down there in Charlotte, right? And so what we don't want to do is have this blanket universal way of determining applicants for hiring opportunities when it probably just wouldn't serve not only the person in the community, but the hiring manager themselves. One of the best things that I had the opportunity to be able to do when I started building my construction business was to hire people and have to sit on the other side of the hiring table. I talked about it earlier today. When I would be on the and the people that would apply for jobs with me, they wouldn't know that I had a felony conviction. So inside of the interview, we're going to have a great interview. We get to the part of the interview when they get all quiet and get all squeamish and get nervous and like, well, Mr. Bullock, I want to let you know that I have a felony conviction. And I'm like, bro, you got what? I got 3 of them Jones. What you do? Oh, snap. You knew you was going to get locked up for that. You got a job. You hired. Come on, no, with us, right? And the interesting thing was we wouldn't realize it, but out of the first 18 employees that I had, 16 of them had felony convictions just like me. These were the same team members that worked harder than everyone else that I could ever hire because they had that chip on their shoulders that said they knew that they had a felony conviction. They're going to have to outwork everyone else. They had to prove to not only the employer but to themselves that they could also come home and they can crush it. What we also learned along that journey was that these were the people that had the strongest support systems and wanted them to be able to do well. So they never showed up late for work. They never wanted to lose their job. They were so loyal. They were overly loyal. They wanted to stay late. They didn't want to get paid for stuff. I'm like, dude, if you stay, I got to pay you. You got to go home. They're like, no, Marcus, we want to show you. We just want to work hard. I'm going to be the hardest person. I'm like, dude, you got to go home, bro. Like, I can't pay you. You got to go home. And I think that was an interesting place for me to live in because now that I'm instructing other hiring managers and working with other larger Fortune 100 companies as they roll out their second chance hiring practices, I'm able to help inform them on the ways that they can strategically look for new talent that has not been accessed for many years as a result of the felony conviction.
So it sounds like you see that there's a time for business to make its own decisions in this process, but that there might be a time for government intervention. Where do you think the line should be drawn?
Yeah, I mean, as a CEO of my own company, I don't never want the government to tell me what to do with my business, right? I feel like there are policy decisions that should help inform corporate officers in how they can govern their companies responsibly and get the maximum bang for their buck so they can get the incredible access to the incredible talent pool that's waiting to go work for them. But if they choose not to, I'm like, all right, yeah, cool, whatever. I mean, you hire who you want to hire. What I don't want you to do is just not hire as a result of this decision.
So it shouldn't be left up to business.
100%. Oh, yeah. I don't want the government to I don't want to figure out how to get the government to have to always intervene inside of some of these decisions. Now, if it's I live in DC where 80% of the jobs there are government jobs, right? So like there's a place where I think that government needs to step in and take a leadership role to help them help all private industries understand the power behind hiring people with felony convictions, and then storytell around the successes around those. But as a CEO of my own company, I wish the government would tell me who I can and cannot hire. I just won't not hire. I won't disqualify as a result of the felony conviction, and I ask other people to not do the same.
All right, hey,
Whoa,
we're
whoa,
gonna
next
move
question.
up here. Another question, okay?
Thank you so much for coming and speaking. I had a question about, you talked a little bit about your faith and the questions that you had about that during prison. How has that changed after, and how are you integrating that in Flick Shop and like the business school and things like that?
I just got off an amazing plane coming here. God is great and greatly to be praised. Let me tell you something. I am so grateful for this amazing life that God blessed me with right now. The silver lining in my dark cloud are these moments here that allow for me to be able to bring a transformative conversation inside of environments that typically would never have this kind of conversation. And it allows for now the potential new hiring managers to have a different perspective on what the possibilities could be for their companies as they think about building out their talent pools. All of those things, and I can go on a long bullet list of the place that God has blessed me to be able to have now influence. So I'm super grateful for all of those dark moments. Now, looking back, in those moments, there was no way that I could tell when I was sitting in isolation cell for getting in a fight on a prison rec yard that God would lead me up into this moment today. But what I am grateful for is that I do have that story. I can share that narrative so all of the other 600,000 people that are coming out of prisons every year can have a data point that they can look to see what the possibilities are. And for the fact that God wants to use me as one of the unique people inside of his kingdom to be able to deliver that messaging, I feel so amazingly blessed.
Okay, Marcus, I'm going to take the privilege of the last question. You talked about your mom a lot. She was so important.
She's my superhero.
Can you give us an update on what mom's up to these days and what she's been up to since?
Yeah, so now my mom is running the office now. She's the relationship manager at Flick Shop, and I spend the majority of my days while in the office trying to convince her that I'm the CEO and that she got to listen to me now.
That's fun. Hey, JBU, help me out. Let's give like a level 4 thank you to Marcus for being here tonight and for speaking. Thank you, Marcus.
Wait a minute. Yo, what's up, y'all? We are JBU. They getting hype. Tonight was a good night. We had fun on the stage. Keynote killer. Let's do it, y'all. Love y'all, JBU.